Join us as we embark on a family adventure like no other, exploring the wonders of Walt Disney World through the eyes of your little ones. Welcome back to Extravagant Adventures, your portal to the enchanting realm of magical travel. I'm Rachel, and along with Abby and Mackenzie, we're your devoted guides to the captivating worlds of Disney, Universal, and beyond. Join us on an expedition as we reveal concealed gems, divulge behind-the-scenes stories, and offer expert tips to transform your vacations into extraordinary journeys. Tune in every other week as we uncover a universe of wonder and cherished memories. Welcome aboard, fellow adventurers. How are we doing today?
Doing great. It feels like spring here today.
Yeah, it's a beautiful day.
It feels like Texas here today. Well, before we jump into our theme park news and all the good stuff we have planned for today, let's go ahead and give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Alonzi Travel, the ultimate family theme park experts. Planning theme park trips can be overwhelming, but Alonzi Travel is here to make it stress-free. With their years of experience, they're your fast pass to hassle-free travel. They handle all the details, allowing you to focus on having fun with your loved ones. Whether you dream of Hogwarts or Disneyland, they've got it covered, tailoring the trip to your family's needs. So visit alonzi-travel.com/take-the-trip for a magical adventure, and one of our experts will be happy to help you. And today's episode, we're going to dive into talking about the parks with kids. So definitely a big hot button topic for almost all of our clients. Yes. But before we do that, we have a scotch of Disney news.
A touch.
Just a touch. This isn't really big news, but the after hours events are coming back in 2024. They were, of course, put on hold with the holidays because Mickey's Not So Scary, Mickey's Very Merry, Jollywood Nights, like they're not going to do after hours because of all those things, but they are coming back in 2024. Have you guys done after hours events before?
I have.
Yeah, I really enjoy them more so than like Mickey's Not So Scary because it's literally about riding rides and you get free popcorn and ice cream.
It just makes me feel like I'm a kid again, you know? Like,
yeah, this is like how many rides can you do in a night? That's what this is specifically for, and I love it. So Hollywood Studios, Magic Kingdom, and Epcot are all participating. They all have different dates, so if you're interested, definitely reach out to our partners at Alonzi Travel, and they will talk with you about those. The tickets go on sale soon, but the dates usually don't sell out. So if you have trips that align with dates, just let us know, and we will hook you up.
Yep.
The next one
through April, right?
Next one, Mackenzie's ready for this one.
Yeah, Mackenzie's ready for the next piece of news.
I
the
am.
Haunted Mansion Lounge on the Treasure, guys. I can't wait. Like
I think it's going to be so much fun. I just think the theming of this is so awesome.
This video that they posted was awesome.
And how did Entertainment Weekly get to post this before anybody else?
That is confusing. I thought Disney Food Blog would have the run of it too. I really want to go on the Treasure. This definitely makes me want to go on the Treasure like immediately. So
yeah. Well, we'll have to plan a group trip because our podcast is Extravagant Adventure, and going on an adventure on the Treasure just seems absolutely perfect.
Correct.
Very perfect.
Just saying. And the last piece of news, we got an official opening date for Pixar Place Hotel. So Paradise Pier is completely being rebranded into the Pixar Place Hotel. It's opening January 30th. It is open now, though. So, like, just to be clear, It is
open. And was open through the entire renovation.
Yes. But the, grand opening ceremony and, basically no more construction, January 30th. So, it's coming up.
It's coming up. The pictures, honestly, they look cool. They look like Pop Century meets your Pixar friends to me, the rooms. It was super needed, though. Paradise Pier was definitely one of these things. It's not like the others at the Disneyland hotels. So I'm very excited about this. And I mean, listen, I'll probably go check it out. I'll check out I want to see the pool too.
Yeah. The pool is disappointing.
Yeah, but it's been under construction for so long. I honestly just
when we did you weren't here. You weren't here for it. When I did my trip recap, I got to see the new pool.
Oh, it was disappointing.
It's a square.
Oh, I was there. Yeah.
Just a square.
It's a square. they have a slide that drops you off in a splash pad.
So good for little kids is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
And you'll miss your golf cart over to the Disneyland Hotel for their pool.
Yeah. Or I'll walk because it's not that far. But yeah. What was cool that I liked was the fire pits because they were all fire characters.
Oh, nice. Like,
so there was like Ember and Anger, and there was another one, but they were all fire pits. So I thought that was really cute. I don't know what the lounge they have there though is like, because that wasn't open yet. That was the only thing that I wanted, a mojito, and the bar wasn't open. So I said, we out.
Yeah.
Kids flashing me puss. I
go
can't have a mojito. Get me out of here.
Oh man, that's funny. So, and on theme for the rest of the episode.
Yes, exactly. So before we get into that, that's all the news we have. But Mackenzie, where'd you get your ears?
Factory 55. They're my Haunted Mansion ears.
Sponsor us, Factory 55.
Yes.
Affiliate link.
Mine are also Factory 55. Look at the moving parts there.
So good.
They move?
Yep. So
oh my God, I'm going to buy them right now.
For those of you who are strict Disney World fans, this is the facade of It's a Small World at Disneyland.
Which is superior, we all know.
Significantly.
We all know.
And this is a large reason why. I mean, you don't have any of this at Disney World. So very cool. This is all the nostalgia for me. What about you, Rachel? Those look different.
These are lovely Lily & Co. They are her Boo to You ears. So they have the iconic bow from the Boo to You costumes. And then the colors are just very, very Halloween. So I love them.
They're great.
I don't get to wear them very often. And yeah, I'm wearing my Oogie Boogie shirt to match because it's when this episode publishes, it'll be past Halloween. But right now it's 5 days till Halloween.
This one's retro, guys. It's in the homage to the Electric Parade. Shirt.
Oh my gosh, that is such a vintage. Look at that. That's the castle from like 2006.
Yeah, and the shirt is probably like circa 2012 or so.
Wow.
So,
you take good care of your clothes.
Mm-hmm. I try. It was a little brighter before. But
did it glow in the dark?
It did. And it also reminded me, I used to have one from the Disneyland Electrical Parade that had like the same like coating of the fireworks. So feels very nostalgic.
I like it. I might have to steal that from you.
Yeah.
Well, today's episode, we are talking about taking your kids to Disney. And when we say kids, we're going to stick to like younger kids, because that's usually where most of the logistics and the questions come into play. As most of you know, I do not have kids. So Abby and Mackenzie are going to be regaling us with their tales of children, because y'all's kids are different ages too, right?
Yes. I have a 7.5-year-old boy and a 5.5-year-old boy.
Yep. And I have a 3-year-old and a 10-month-old, almost 10-month-old, both girls.
Has been to Disney already.
She has been to Disney World and Disneyland. Yes.
There you go.
Well, that's a perfect segue. What age did you take your kids to Disney?
So I get this question a lot. And I think, me personally, me and Mackenzie are probably anomalies, right? Like we went ASAP. I get this question a lot in terms of like, what is the best age to bring your kids to Disney? And I have 2 answers. Essentially, if this is your one and done trip, you do not plan to do this again, then it's a good idea, I think, to wait until everyone in your travel party is at least old enough to remember, or, have really like be able to enjoy it and not just sort of be along for the ride. But if you're not going to just do it once and you're going to go back, then there really is no bad time to go. And, the will they remember it question, like you will remember it. And some of my favorite Disney memories, I don't think my sons really remember at all, but they're very special to me. So if it's not a one and done, I think go ahead, 10 months old and less is all good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So my youngest, she went to World at 3 months because Emerson was just about going to be 3. So we were going to make sure that we, had another trip before that mark when she, was no longer free. So we'll talk about that, I'm sure. But we also went to Disneyland when she was 4 months because we were both on leave. The first time we took Emerson was 16 months. which I thought was like such a fun time to go because she was walking, she like recognized characters. It was really fun to like see her just like take everything in. I think we rode It's a Small World until it closed. So, just be prepared that like, one ride might be their favorite and that's the only thing you do on that trip at each park. But every trip that we took her on, she's been 4 times, I believe. She's done 16 months, 20 months, 24 months, and we did this past April, almost 3, and every trip was completely different. And so there were pluses and minuses to all of them.
Yeah. So my almost 8-year-old Asher has been 8 or 9 times to between Disneyland and Disney World. I'd like that number to be higher, but the pandemic really got in the way for a couple of years there. And then he's, been on Aulani and the Disney cruise ship. So he's doing pretty well. And my 5-year-old's been along for most of that too. So I will say, like Mackenzie sort of hit on it, one of my favorite trips we took was for Asher's 3rd birthday, and Parker was not yet 1. He was 11 months. And Asher turned 3 during the vacation, so he was free. That's the mark that Mackenzie meant. Children under 3 are free, so they do not need a park ticket. They do not need a Genie Plus. If you eat at character meals, they are free, or any buffets. They don't pay. You can feed them off the buffet. A la carte, obviously, if you're at an a la carte restaurant, you're ordering for them. That's not free. And they still do count to VIP. That is a question I get a ton. If you have someone under 3 in your travel party and you're doing a Disney VIP day, they will count towards that 10-person maximum. So keep that in mind. But it was a great trip, and they made a big deal of his birthday, and he was old enough to like really appreciate what was happening. And yeah, he was free for the whole trip. So that was a great one.
What would you say the ideal age to go? Because I get a lot of questions about, well, my kid's potty training. I want to wait till they're done potty training. I don't know if, like you guys said, remember it. So if it's, let's say it's a one and done, what would you say you think the ideal age for kids would be?
I think it depends on the kid, but I would say while they still like are, embracing the magic. So, Abby, your kids are a little older. Would you say like the 6 to like 8 range?
I think so. I think even 4, my 5-year-old, when he was 4, was really tall and into thrill rides. So like that was great. And, he, even when my older son was starting to being like, how come like Mickey doesn't like talk, or how come Mickey doesn't recognize me from yesterday? Like it's still all like blissful ignorance for the small ones. But I do think like 6 to 8 is super magical, and they are doing a good job consciously, right, of bringing in rides and different IPs that like I think will keep kids engaged, even at like older ages, right? Like the lightsaber experiences, the droids. We did the droids in my family. That was a great one. So I do think like they're trying to, keep their audience a little longer too. So yeah, I would say like 6 to 8 is great. And honestly, there's no limit. Disney, like, look at us, we still are obsessed.
Exactly. Mackenzie, do you think the same thing?
Yeah, I do. I think I agree with Abby that like, there's a little bit, that younger age is awesome. Like Emerson still remembers our last trip. So she was, just under 3. So she still talks about like what we saw. So I know she remembers it. Is she going to remember it in 5 years? Probably not. But like, it's been 6 months. Yes, she's still talking about
maybe their core memories though,
Right, exactly. So you just don't know. I do think that like 6 to 8 range, they'll be able to ride most of the attractions. They're likely going to be able to stay up for fireworks if that's a priority, and it's still going to be magical.
But that being said, like, especially in families with multiple kids, if you have, your oldest is 8, I wouldn't wait until the youngest one hit that 4 to 6 mark. First of all, I had a piece of fuzz floating. You don't want to, your older kid, you don't want to you want them to still be able to, right, believe in the magic and experience the magic. But also it is totally workable and very fun for kids at like that lower age too. So if you have age gaps you're working with, I would definitely say like, if go, even if your youngest doesn't fall into that range.
So speaking of these young ages, I'm assuming you guys are going to highly recommend a stroller.
Yes, all the time.
Is there a max age you would say for a stroller?
I think this is kid dependent. At Disney World, I will say my almost 8-year-old and my almost 6-year-old are in a stroller a good amount of the time. Not all the time. Sometimes the stroller is just pushing around like shopping bags or whatever. But when it's there, it's there, especially my younger guy. If you're traveling when there's higher humidity or heat, I would definitely say a stroller is necessary. Like, I feel like at like 8, you might have some resistance from some kids, like just not wanting to get into the stroller anymore. But I have seen very big kids in the strollers all around Disney World. Disneyland, I have done without a stroller at this point. That's, kid dependent. And I think it depends how you place the rides too. But Disney World is non-negotiable, especially like Epcot. No one's going around, World Showcase without a stroller.
That's exactly what I had in my head. I feel like Hollywood Studios could be doable, with a 6 and 8-year-old without a stroller.
That actually,
when you're talking Epcot, like there's just no way. And like at the end of the night, you're tired. Like who wants to be carrying around an 8-year-old, a 6-year-old,
And they've definitely fallen, or my younger one, especially Parker's fallen asleep in the stroller, like waiting for the bus or, whatever it is. And I get a lot of questions, but I don't have a stroller at home because my kids don't use them. That's okay. Talk to your travel advisor. We'll talk you through your rental options, of which there are many, and they're convenient. I, at this point, have just kept my City Mini double stroller for park trips. So.
Well, Mackenzie, talk to us about the logistics of the stroller, because you've got the youngest one. So like, do you get a double stroller? Where do you park them? How do you take them on the bus?
Yeah. So let's start with if you're traveling via plane. So if you have a young kid, you likely want to, at least one kid that will be stroller age, and you want to be able to have a stroller pushing them through the airport. You're going to want to take a stroller from home because you need that for, the airport. But if you have a kid that like doesn't need one to get through the airport, then, renting something or, bringing a single and then renting a double could be an option for you. The thing that is important to note is I would definitely have one, a seat for both, however many kids you have, or, if you have some older, somewhere in like the, 5, 7, 6, 8, and like you have 3 kids, then maybe a double will be fine because they can like rotate or something like that. Right. Yeah. And then the important thing to note is you have to break down or you have to fold your stroller when you're on a bus. So if you're on the monorail, you're not, folding it up or doing that. You can like bring it on, if single or double. Yeah. The Skyliner, you can like keep it if it's a single. But if it's a double and depending on the size, you have to fold it.
They actually have not made me fold my double on the Skyliner, but I've been in situations on the monorail where it's so crowded that I've ended up folding my stroller because my kids aren't
interesting. So maybe there's no hard and fast rule because I've had to fold my stroller on the Skyliner multiple times.
But I just would say, like, get really familiar with how your stroller folds. You're not going to want to do it while a bunch of people are staring at you.
The stress of people waiting behind you is real.
Exactly. Yeah. And for like a lot of the rental companies are using City Minis. That's because they collapse just by picking them up. So that is definitely a thing. And every ride has stroller parking or is nearby a designated stroller parking area. You can leave your brake on your stroller. I would never leave personal belongings that are valuable in the strollers. But the cast members will sometimes move strollers around just to, as the crowd ebbs and flows. So if you go back and your stroller isn't exactly where you left it, it could have just been, look around, ask a cast member if you need help, but sometimes it gets shifted very slightly.
Yeah. And depending on if you're renting it, they might have a sign for you to put on your stroller. But if you're bringing it from home, maybe put some sort of like easily identifiable, ribbon or something like that, whatever is going to make it easy for you to find. We do leave things in the stroller, but again, like Abby said, no valuables, things like that. So.
Oh yeah. I've never personally, knock on everything, I've never had anything stolen. I don't have had clients, but I wouldn't risk it with valuable things. But like, if I bought a souvenir, it's in the bag, it's under my shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
the stroller is just a great spot. Like if you do have kids, like it's a great spot to just kind of like put the stuff that you don't want to carry around, especially when they were doing the merchandise pickup and delivery to your resort.
I'm really holding on to my stroller for that under storage area. It's nice for water bottles and sunblock and all sorts of things. So
I do want to also say, because, this was a lifesaver for us, for Poppy at 3 to 4 months, having our carrier, like with the baby carrier, was essential. And so we had the Bjorn carrier mini with us on the first trip, and we brought that and the Ergo baby on the second, and just having something to like hold her against us was great. Florida heat's not ideal, but
I know we're going to be talking about baby gear. That would be my number one recommendation. And we're moving right into meltdowns, I think, Rachel, but that is the number one thing. I had a little baby, I would throw it under my stroller. It just is a surefire way to calm a small kid. So
two things I want to add. Number one, this does not apply to Disneyland Paris. So interesting fact, Disneyland Paris, nobody does stroller rentals there. So you're kind of, either you bring it with you, you buy one at Primark close by, or you deal with the plastic strollers at Disneyland Paris. And number two, theft is a problem at Disneyland Paris. So I haven't, same as you guys, I haven't had any clients give me any feedback that they've gotten anything stolen. But I mean, let's be real, there are dishonest people all over the place. So it can happen. But yeah, at the domestic parks, it's not as big of a problem. But you guys didn't mention a poncho for the stroller.
The rain bubbles. So if you have one for your existing stroller, definitely bring it. Like if you have a good umbrella on the stroller, like the hood of the stroller, you might not need it, especially if your kids are wearing ponchos. This is one of those things that I tell people, like, is nice to have, but like if you forgot it, don't beat yourself up.
Or if you have an extra one, I know a lot of people will throw, because when it's, what the problem is for a lot of clients is like if you leave your stroller and then all of a sudden it starts raining and then you come back to a soggy stroller.
Yes.
It just happened to me via Napoli. We were eating and the stroller was soaked. It was sunny, and then all of a sudden, the skies opened up. So yes, I think it's great, especially if you're going during the summer months, because without fail, you will find that you will be in some sort of rainstorm at some point. I think it's essential. I think having a cup holder is essential for the adulting people. So those are my two must-haves on your stroller. And a fan. Sorry, 3 must-haves.
Thank you. So let's segue in, because I feel like the fan is a great segue, because nothing starts a meltdown faster than being overheated. So what are some of y'all's tips when you can sense a meltdown coming, or a meltdown is in process and,
Yeah. So it's interesting. I think there are two kinds of meltdowns at Disney. One is someone was afraid of something, either a ride experience or a character. You wouldn't believe how many small kids are actually pretty afraid of the characters up close. Or it's overheated, overtired, overexerted, too much excitement, too much sugar, some combination of those things. So I think depending on what the situation is, if you can take a break, whether that means like going to sit down, grabbing a snack, going to an air-conditioned attraction like the Tiki Show, or dare I say Country Bear Jamboree, just so everyone can reset. If you're over in Magic Kingdom, the water park or the splash pad sort of situation by Storybook Circus is back now. That's a good option. If you need to go back to the hotel, there's no shame in that game. I think especially if it's earlier in your trip, you want to sort of give it space. I know it's really frustrating because everyone is, sort of planned what they want to do. But if you push your little kids too hard in the beginning of the trip, the rest of your trip will be much more difficult.
How about you, Mackenzie?
I think it's funny to like think about like our trips evolving, even just like the few months difference between when we took Emerson the first time and the second time. So like we were able to have her sleep in the stroller at that like 16-month mark. And she was, easily able to do that. But at 20 months, she was a little bit more stimulated. So heading back to the resort was key for us on those. So.
Yeah. What would you guys ever utilize baby care or first aid?
I was going to say that I have utilized them, especially when Parker was younger. If you're nursing still as well, those are great places to nurse. I personally have nursed all around the Magic Kingdom in like sort of secluded areas. But because I had an older kid, I just sort of was like, I can't make it all the way back to the baby stations, but definitely for sure. And the first aid was great. We were there in August of 2019. Everyone was getting really overheated, and I as a, in my classic mom anxiety, was like, I can't tell if my baby is just too hot or has a fever. And so like we went to the first aid kit, and they were so lovely. We did sit there, they gave us some cold water, and then we took temperature. So yeah, it's great. I think there's great, and you can check the locations on the Disney World app.
Yeah. So I have also seen every single baby care center at Disney World and Disneyland. So I can rank them if
we need to.
Follow Mackenzie on Instagram for that.
Yeah, exactly. So I think there are like some great amenities. Some of them are bigger and have more amenities than others. Literally, Hollywood Studios is just a curtain, basically. So be prepared. But the ones at like there are designated nursing rooms, or if you're pumping, areas for you to sit and pump as well. There's chargers. There's, if you need more diapers or any of those amenities that you might have, run through or forgotten at your room, or your, wherever, you can always buy them. They're available for purchase. Formula as well. You can get that at the parks, and some baby, tailored snacks as well. So the baby care centers are great. I wish there was at least one more in each of the parks, because sometimes it was a little bit difficult to run from, one side of Epcot to the baby care center, but, or Animal Kingdom, I felt like that. But otherwise, the one at Magic Kingdom was pretty centrally located, right by, oh my gosh, by Casey's Corner.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the one at Hollywood Studios is in the front of the park. So that one wasn't bad.
Yeah. And they do have registered nurses on site. So like actual nurses, not just staff. They are actual nurses. And I know a lot of my clients that have kids with like autism, or they're on the spectrum somewhere. This is it's a great place for just like quiet time. Because I know we were talking about like small kids, but bigger kids can have needs too that you can utilize at these first aid places. And we'll do a whole nother episode on special needs, because that's its own, definitely completely different, not completely different, but its own set of challenges and ways to work with it. But definitely keep that in mind. If it's just your kid is overstimulated and just needs a minute in a quiet place, first aid has that.
Yeah. And baby care centers are not just for babies. There are rooms. Some of them, Epcot has like a little room for like the other family members with a TV and some chairs and some, books or things to read. So like if you needed, to bring both kids with you, or, one adult, for example, one adult might be riding Guardians of the Galaxy, and then you have both kids and one needs a diaper changer to be fed. Like you can easily, just an example. It didn't happen.
Not
right?
life experience at all.
Yeah. You can definitely, have your toddler sit and watch a show. And there's cast members that staff those, and all of the counters and baby care areas are like continuously sanitized. So they were always working and doing and always cleaning in there, which was really nice to see.
And they have supplies that you can purchase. I think, Abby, you said that, but like if you run out of diapers, or I have been to baby care myself for diaper rash cream, for mind your business chafing. So like adults can use it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
So we talked about meltdowns, and Abby, you kind of said already, one of the reasons meltdowns happen is because they need a nap, and there is no shame in going back to your hotel. Is that the only way to take a nap? I think Mackenzie, you kind of said the stroller thing. What's y'all's nap time tips?
Yeah, this depends on the age and the kid. Like, will your kid nap in the stroller? Can you divide and conquer? So one parent is, doing the stroller walk with the stroller like sunshade down to try and get the kid to go to sleep. I also think, depending on what you have planned for the rest of the day, it might just make sense to go back to the hotel. If it's not too hot, I've definitely seen dark, shady corners, and just like moms sitting there with strollers or kids on them. Carriers, again, are a great way to do it. The baby rooms you just mentioned, if you can get your kid to like sleep on you, quick naps.
Some rides are even ideal, like the train, carousel of progress, if you want your kid to fall asleep.
You can just riding the train around.
People mover, right? Yeah, like all of those might be good options.
And the truth is, different families handle naps, different ways, and different kids are more resilient if their nap is cut short or, if it's late or whatever. But it's never going to be the nap you have at home. It just isn't. So just sort of got to get through.
Yeah.
Now, would you guys say to go back to the hotel? Because logistic wise, do you guys want to kind of talk about how long that takes?
Yeah. So you actually sort of hit on it, a little bit, talking about like when I know we said we'd get to this, but like which resorts are the best for kids. That's sort of how I help people decide if you have small kids and you intend to go back to, to the resort for your naps. If you're going to be spending the most time in Magic Kingdom, looking at those monorail resorts, especially the Contemporary, which is a 5-minute walk essentially at a brisk pace with the stroller, can't beat that. I love staying in the boardwalk area with kids because it's easy to walk, obviously, to Epcot or to Hollywood Studios. It's an easy area to just feel like it's very stroller friendly. But yes, potentially you are looking at like a 30-minute just transportation. That doesn't include necessarily like waiting for the bus or exiting the park. So you really do have to plan for that. If you are working with a Disney Approved travel advisor, one of us can help you like set up your day. If that's what you want to do, maybe we structure your meals a little bit differently than if you weren't, and your reservations. If you're park hopping, going after nap time in the middle of the day is a really nice way to sort of break it up. There are different ways to do it. And if your adults in the party need a break, I think it is nice to go back to the resort. I have also maybe if you have an older kid who's not napping, you can take them to the pool. One parent goes to the pool, the other one is doing nap time. There's lots of things that you can do. I think when we had a trip where Parker was napping and my husband needed to do work anyway, so they went back to the hotel so my husband could do his work and Parker could nap, and I just stayed in the parks with Asher. So there's a lot of ways to do it.
Well, then let's segue. Mackenzie, what is your favorite? Let's pick 3. What's your favorite 3 resorts for traveling with kids? Could be any age.
Well, like Abby said, I can't beat the location of the Contemporary for Magic Kingdom. I think that was so amazing. On Emerson's first trip, we stayed at the Grand Floridian and then actually did a split stay at the Riviera as well. And we did that purposefully because she was so young. So we were able to, yes, packing up was a little bit annoying during the middle of the trip, but we focused our trip so that we were at Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom on the first leg. And then we were at Hollywood Studios and Epcot on the second part of the trip, so that we were never too far from the resort. So we tend to stay a lot of the time at the boardwalk. We just love that area in particular. The boardwalk and the beach and yacht are all favorites. But I would say that
Stormalong Bay. So
yes, Stormalong Bay for kids is probably going to make the beach and the yacht club, equal tie for number 2 for me. And then for my third option, I want to give you something away from Magic Kingdom, but I can't. I have to say the Polynesian because of just loving, being a boat ride away, being a monorail ride away. That pool area is so awesome for kids, and there's just so much to do. So those are my 3.
I'm going to say
Abby, what are yours?
I'm going to say the first 2 are the same. Contemporary, I would have said beach and yacht for the same Stormalong Bay. Riviera, I love. I think people overlook it because it's not like highly themed, but there's like a little putt-putt by the pool. There's a big chessboard by the pool. There's the mosaics of, the princess stories. And the Skyliner is amazing. I think it's great. But and I think also Animal Kingdom Lodge, just from like a novelty standpoint, has a place, although me as a parent, it's not my favorite.
But it's far from everything.
Those are all deluxe resorts. So I would also throw
Yeah, can we please get some other price points here, people?
Yeah, sorry.
Throw in if you were staying, I mean, again, I'm a Skyliner fan, so like Art of Animation and staying in the Nemo side is a good bet. That's my value pick, and my moderate pick. I'd either choose Caribbean Beach for the Skyliner, although we can get into like, you know, how big that resort is. And I think this is probably my actual pick is French Quarters, Port Orleans French Quarters.
So I also echo the Art of Animation, and I would throw in like if your kid's a particular fan of any, you know, theme, so Cars or, you know, Nemo, I think are my favorites. Little
great boy resort.
What?
It's a great boy
resort. Yeah, well, they do have the Little Mermaids rooms, like the regular rooms, but I feel like they're so far away from everything.
Well, that's right. Nemo is much closer to the Skyliner.
It's the preferred location. And then the Lion King is also great if you have a Lion King lover, but they don't have a designated little mini pool there. But if you don't know that the Art of Animation like has the underwater music, so the main pool has that, which is super awesome for kids. Mm-hmm. And then my moderate pick, for myself would be a different pick probably, but I do really like the Port Orleans grouping, and I would say Riverside.
Sorry, knee-jerk reaction. I hate that resort.
Why?
I hate it so much.
Old Man Island, like I think that's great for kids. I think that is such a you know, fun place to explore. So
true, but to Abby's point, I feel like it's the biggest and most spread out, and I feel like it needs a ton of renovations. Like I did stay there, and I just felt grimy, but I don't like that resort, so I'm very like passionately biased against it. For me, it's Caribbean Beach or Coronado Springs Grand Destino Tower.
Oh, the new tower!
Oh my God, you almost blew your ears off your head.
Hands down, but for kids. Would you say that the Coronado? I'm talking like kids.
No, because you still have to do the bus circuit.
Yeah, well, I like the pool at Coronado Springs is really good.
Yeah,
true.
I will say with the tower, they also have introduced a suite, or a suite, a 1-bedroom type that doesn't exist in the other moderate resorts. I mean, I know Casitas have. Anyway, I would do that too.
So excited about it.
But
let's not talk about Casitas.
Yeah, I think for kids, I still think my Port Orleans pick. I am not a fan of Caribbean Beach, so I am location-wise, it's fantastic. That is what I will give it, and that is it.
All right.
Well, no good segue here. How about some food tips? I know we all get questions from families about picky eaters. Not only that, but, you know, bringing food into the parks. So do either of you guys have picky eaters? Can you speak to that? Give us some food tips.
Yeah, I mean, so a couple things you guys probably know, you can grocery shop, you can have groceries delivered to most of the Disney resorts. You can have things shipped to you ahead of time, which is something that I used to do when I wanted like more pouches and like baby stuff as well. But you know, this is Disney. They know their audience, right? Like every menu that you're looking at online, like there is a kids menu, even at the fancy signature restaurants, with the exception of Victoria and Albert's, right? Like they'll have kids menus and mac and cheese. And I would also say a lot of the Disney restaurants will share kitchen spaces or are connected via underground tunnels. So if your kid loved something at one restaurant, you can ask if it's possible to get it at another restaurant.
Yeah. So starting with like little kids. So my 3-year-old is not super picky. So she loves a good mac and cheese, but she will eat shrimp, or she'll eat pretty much anything that like we, you know, put in front of her. So she likes to try things. So she was always like looking to try something. So if you're sitting at a restaurant, the under 3 crowd, if you're, you know, not at a buffet, they can eat off of your plate and you don't have to order them anything, or you can order them something off the children's menu. Most of the cast members, like the wait staff, will offer them some sort of option. And like Abby said, it's usually mac and cheese.
Or French fries.
Or French fries, or like there's, you know, some sort of like small little plate. It's not going to be a like big thing, but it's going to be a small little perfect size for like a, you know, under 3. And then for your, babies, if you need, like, you can always go to the baby care centers, or they're, you can get like hot water or whatever you need to, like, formula or things like that as well. But Instacart or some sort of like food delivery is great. One thing to note, unless you're in a suite, you're going to have a beverage cooler and not a regular refrigerator, which is not going to be cold enough. So, if you need to keep actual milk in your room, it's, you're going to kind of run the risk of it getting too warm and in beverage coolers. So Bell Services is going to be, you're going to get to know Bell Services really well. Yeah, one of my biggest tips, which we'll talk about in baby gear, is having some cooler packs and extras so that you can trade them in for, like, every other night, just exchange them. So we had extra bottles on hand. I always pack like a some sort of bottle brush, some sort of small dish soap as well, so that I can clean bottles in the room, and just bring, a couple extras in case something happens.
Yeah, so you can, and just quick, you can bring anything into the parks, food and beverage wise, as long as it's not in a glass container and as long as it's not alcohol. So to the grocery delivery point, you can bring it into the parks. Just be aware, no alcohol, no glass containers. So let's segue into then baby gear. So what additional baby gear, and I'd say baby, for your kids?
I was going to say, I think we hit on this. Bring your water bottles, bring your carriers, bring your fans. A lot of people like those cooling towels. I think that's great. Any princess gear or like souvenirs that you already own at home, bring those along too, because then you don't have to buy them in the parks. But yeah, we hit on a lot of it.
And the most important question that we probably get all the time: rides to skip, avoid.
Yep. So take a look at the height restrictions, and in the Disney World app, you will see small descriptions of things that are like dark, thrilling, what kind of thrill. I think Haunted Mansion is a tough sell with little kids. But if they're old enough to understand that there is actually a way out, even with no windows and no wall or no doors, then you're good to go.
To kind of talk about the baby gear real quick with that, one thing that like really helped us was having some sort of like muffled headphones. So like you could bring those, and like if your kid is more afraid of like loud noises, having headphones on hand will allow you to get through that attraction or fireworks or something like that.
Sure, those are good. The baby headphones.
Do you want to tell us about child swap? Because, us adults, we want to still enjoy rides, even if our kids are too small. So what's rider swap and how does that work?
I love this. Rider swap was originally intended for people who have multiple kids, one of whom did not make a height requirement. So let's say, just to keep things clean, we're going to use names. My family is going, and I know Asher is all good to ride and Parker is not. My husband could stay with Parker once we've told a cast member that we're using rider swap. Asher and I go on the line, whether the standby line or through Lightning Lane, and we ride the ride. And then we come back and switch, and Brian is eligible to ride without having to wait in line. Most cast members will also let your older riding child ride again without having to wait in the line. It's not guaranteed, but it's nice. It's a nice pixie dust thing they'll throw at you. And I would say the second way that people use it is, let's say you're in a situation where everyone is about to ride, and then one of your children gets a look at the queue or saw the pre-show and was like, nope, I don't want to do this anymore. Always flag down a cast member, because you can exit through what we affectionately call the chicken door. And you can ask a cast member to do rider swap at that point too. So then you don't have to go to sort of like back against the crowd out through the entrance where you came. And you can also wait by the exit for your family.
Yeah, and I've personally used the chicken door at Tower of Terror because I wanted to see the queue and I didn't want to ride the ride. And like, yeah, you do get to like the very front where you're like, crap, they're gonna load me onto the ride vehicle. But exactly, you tell a cast member, they hear it all the time. They know exactly what to do. They're not going to judge you. So adults can use it as well as children. Child swap is, of course, for children. But if adults want to use the chicken door,
totally fine.
Approved. Rachael approved. I have used it at Gardens of the Galaxy too.
I did it when I was pregnant on Rise of the Resistance because I wanted to get through the
family.
Yeah. So a couple random things that we should mention, kind of the bane of my existence, but kids love them. Bubble wands and water sprayers.
Yeah. So I was going to say, honestly, this has become sort of hotly debated. Buy them ahead of time if you're going to buy them, and
they're $30
on the park. Yep. And yes. But I would say be respectful. It is frustrating, even if your kid is one of them doing it. No one likes bubbles in the face. So just try and, keep the settings where you can, or keep it to areas where you're not literally, indoctrinating everyone with your bubbles.
Have them blow the bubbles in their own face.
Yeah.
And whether you're bringing, or whether you're bringing it for home or buying it there, you want to bring extra bubbles or extra batteries with you.
Yeah. The other question I get a lot, which I think is sort of on the same line, is whether or not to use magic bands with your kids, especially with with the advent of the Magic Band Plus. They're expensive. And so I get a lot of questions about this. I think that comes down to whether or not your child will, one, be able to scan and therefore will have any like value out of this, because otherwise just get them a slap bracelet and they won't know the difference. They can touch their Mickeys. And if they'll lose it. Rachael has lost a magic band. She knows how annoying it is. If your kid is always just going to be fidgeting with it and like going to take it off, I wouldn't bother. If they can leave it on, I think that's fine. And I don't really think there's enough of a difference between the Plus and the regular, that if you already have one that they want to use, or you are just buying new and are selecting one that's not a Magic Band Plus, I think that's fine. I don't think yet that juice is worth the squeeze. So
now, I know a lot of people are excited for their kids to meet Mickey or their favorite princess. Yeah. As we all know, kids can suddenly get scared of Santa, let alone characters with furry faces. So how do you recommend handling meeting characters, predicting if they're going to be scared, and handling all that?
Yeah, I think, listen, the characters are Disney or special, but like, use what you have as like info to go on. Have they been to birthday parties where they got nervous about characters? Have they been, to like restaurants where there were mascots that were tough for them? And then the characters are pros. So like I had a kid, Parker was really, really into the characters. And then Daisy kissed him, and the sound of her kissing came through her beak, and he lost it and wouldn't go near any of the characters for a really long time. And they sort of like eased him back into it, just sort of like waved to him. And then like that was okay. So they came by. So like they're good, they know. But I would say if your kid is terrified of characters, don't wait in line to meet them. Just sort of like let it happen at like a character meal or something where it might feel a little bit more organic to them, and there's not a million adults staring and clicking their camera,
Yeah, you can also see a ton of characters at parades if you don't even want to, do the meals.
Yeah.
Another thing for like talking characters is like I always cue Emerson up with some like things to ask, or like, things that we can talk about before where she might go up and say, to Elsa, like, oh, I'm a big sister too, or talking to Anna about like what her little sister likes. So just kind of giving them some talking points where they don't get up there and just like stammer.
Right. That's a great tip.
Or just freeze.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they might also do that too, but like at least you've given them
right,
giving them something
to do. And I think that goes to preparing your kids for Disney, like in general. I know a lot of people love to surprise their kids with Disney trips. I would say if you are doing a surprise, just know that the reveal might not go the way you want it to go, because they have so many emotions, right? But if it, either way, even if you are surprising them, prepping them ahead of time, like Mackenzie said, like you're going to meet these characters and like, what, this is how it's going to go. A lot of times people ask me, like, how do I know if my kid will like a ride? People have YouTubed, which I don't love while you're on a ride, but people have YouTubed a lot of these rides, so you can sort of get a sense.
Yep.
Or about the ride personally, you can talk them through it. Like the Haunted Mansion's a great example. That silly ghost is going to tell us that we can't get out, but we know the way out. Like those sorts of things I think go a long way. So while the element of surprise is fun, still do your prep.
Yeah, a lot of my clients will do that. They'll watch YouTube videos so they can know 100%. But then some of the thrill rides, you can see them.
Yeah.
So the other part of that is, just walk up to Seven Dwarfs Mine Train and watch it. And then your kids can see it. And then, do you want to wait in line for this? Yes or no? Big Thunder Mountain, you can see that. Most of the bigger rides, you can see them.
You can see it a little bit. People Mover, we'll give you a glimpse at Space Mountain.
You can see Tron. Like
you can see Tron.
Yeah, you can see Tron.
Tron's a big skip if your kid's reticent, I think, though.
What are some cool things that you guys have seen about surprising your kids with Disney? Prepping your kids with Disney, I think you already mentioned that really well, like just having a conversation, YouTube, all that. But what are some fun ways to surprise your kids with Disney?
I've seen if your kid can read, like, the Disney sends home like some, some stuff like the magic bands and stuff. I've seen people do like big unveilings of those. I've seen people do like cookie reveals. I've seen people just like literally get on the plane to Orlando. We surprised our kid with our Disney cruise, our kids with our Disney cruise. They didn't know where they were going until the morning of. They thought we were just going to Miami, and that was the vacation. And they were pretty upset because I think they were just so shocked. Like they were just like, what? Like, so, and then they were happy on the ship. So, but that's why I say it may not go the way you want it to go. So I think there's so much pressure on it being a surprise. Do what feels good.
I've had clients do like scavenger hunts or like puzzles where they've had to like find the puzzle pieces and like put it together, and they could read that it said like, we're going to Disney.
Right. We had someone do that too. They bought a Mickey puzzle, and then when the puzzle was put together, they told them.
That's fun.
I had another client who had twins who they had a shirt that said, we're going to Disney, but we don't know it yet. And then we asked where they were going, and they were like, oh, we're going to Dunkin' Donuts. And they were so excited. Then when they were told they were going to Disney World, they were like very confused. So like Abby said, like might not exactly go how you like planned, but maybe record it anyway, because it might be funny later on.
Yeah, like you are going to think it's great and you would love the surprise, but a 2-3-year-old, they may not understand. So
many emotions.
Yeah. Well, let's end with what do you wish you had known when you first took your kids? Like what's one or two biggest like, dang, I wish I had known?
I think there's two things. One is, as much as we all like to plan, and you have to plan for a certain amount of Disney, with kids, things may not go according to plan, and you just sort of have to like accept it. And do the best you can within a situation. If there's like, I think we talked a little bit about ways that you can still ride a ride. Like if your kids don't want to ride a ride, going back out after bedtime and doing like swaps that way, or, having grandma or grandpa travel with you, whatever it is, sort of helps you get like some of that control back if there are things you want to do that your kids may not want to do. But the other thing I would say is whatever you think happens at home probably won't happen at Disney. So if your kids sleep in late or you prefer eating late, there is no tired like Disney tired. They will be so tired by the time it gets to 7 o'clock. Don't try to have dinner then. And people say to me like, oh, we'll never make it for the park open. Like my kids sleep in. Yes, but they're at Disney World and they can't wait to get into the park. So they are going to be up and in your face early. Whatever routines you guys have at home will go back once you're at home. But while you're there, you can't sort of like go by your regular routine.
How about you, Mackenzie?
To that point, I 100% agree. I think that, yes, like if you're coming from like the West Coast and you're planning to eat, because you want to stay at like a 5 o'clock and you're like, oh, at 8 o'clock, we'll have dinner. No. Your kid is going to like, their clock is going to autocorrect so quickly. Yeah. So you're going to be on the 5 o'clock train. Yes. So you want to, and like, also like if you eat at 5:30, like you don't want a reservation at 5:30, you want a reservation at 5, so make sure that like, there is a buffer time of like getting your table. Just because your reservation is at that time does not mean that you're going to be sitting down and eating right away. So I think that's one big thing. Another thing for us is don't underestimate how much your kid wants to be in that pool. So like the last trip we took, I think we did pool time more than I ever expected to. Mm-hmm. So I think, scheduling that is also super important. Giving yourself time for those breaks gives everyone a mental, there's a lot of stimulation. So like having that like pool time is great. And there are activities at the resorts that you can do with kids that like, you don't have to be in the park. So planning a resort day might be that like good break for everyone. I think that's.
Yeah. And what I also love too is to do dinner by the pool. A lot of the resorts will have, poolside restaurant options or quick service options. That's a nice way to get like everyone, tired before bedtime, although everyone's already going to be tired, but a little bit extra, physical activity and work in pool time in a way that doesn't necessarily conflict with your park time.
Yeah. Oh, and don't sit down for every meal. That is not going to be beneficial with kids.
No one should do that.
No one should do that. No. And I think that's why they got rid of that one dining plan, which everyone is a sit down. Like no one needs to have more than one sit down in my opinion, a day.
Yeah. Plan for one. Mobile order is a great tool with kids because then you can plan exactly when you're going to eat and pick it up. I think that's, one of the best weapons in my arsenal.
And really the number one, I wish I would, for me, I don't have kids, but again, what I wish I would have known when I planned my first trip is to use a travel agent. Like that's honestly, I know we are professionals. So like we're travel agents now. So we take our kids and we know that, but my first trip was almost ruined because I didn't use a travel agent. My parents almost didn't have flights. So, it was a big mess. So like that, I mean, shameless plug. Thank you, Alonzi Travel, for being our sponsor. Their team is absolutely happy to help you with that. But using a travel agent so that way everything. Like what we're talking about right now is kind of just scratching the surface on the tips that we give our clients. And, we go in depth with all of our clients. Like your specific concern, we can talk about and address and figure things out. What we're talking about now is, not super generic, but a little bit generic. But when we sit with our clients, we go super in depth so that way they're super prepared. To y'all's point, like there's going to be a lot of flexibility that's required, but working with a travel agent is going to help you prepare for that flexibility that is required with any child. No matter the age of the children. Like I went with a 13-year-old and we still had to be flexible because,
every
kids
age
are kids.
has a challenge.
Yes. Kids are kids. No matter the age, flexibility is required. Any last minute, anything else you guys want to add before we
No, I think your last points was chef's kiss. Come ask us. We'll help.
Awesome. Well, thank you again to our sponsor, Alonzi Travel. Check them out at alonzi-travel.com/take the trip. Their team is waiting to help you with your trip. And tune in next time for an episode. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but tune in next time for another amazing Extravagant Adventures episode.
Yay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.